Well, I missed you all last week. I hope you all had a great worship service, and Pastor Mike filled in adequately for me. But I will say that for those of you who don't know, I had one of the greatest weeks of my life. I was in Scotland playing golf, a bucket list trip. I turned 40 a couple weeks ago and was able to get a tee time at St. Andrews, which is the home of golf. It is the place where golf was invented. And I got a chance to play the Old Course, which is the very first golf course in the world, and a place where a lot of British Open championships are played and other tournaments. And it was just, words can't describe how outstanding it was. When you walk around the corner and you see the golf course for the first time, there's just that feeling that you get, that overwhelming feeling like your heart skips a beat. I told the caddy, I'm like, man, the day I was married, the day my daughter was born, and today are the three greatest days of my life. When I was a kid, the only way I could explain is when I was a kid, my dad would take me to Tiger Stadium, and you'd walk through the tunnel, and you'd see the field for the first time. And maybe you have some experience like that, or maybe it's the first time you saw a ballet, or the first time you went to and you saw a symphony with an orchestra. You know, you're like, oh, I didn't know music could be played like that. I didn't know grass could be green like that, right? It was just so beautiful and so perfect. But the thing about it is there in Scotland, golf isn't a pretentious sport with big clubhouses and stuff. There's just a pavilion there, and it's basically like a city park. People walk their dogs on the golf course. The most famous golf course in the world, people walk their dogs. People walk their dogs while they play golf. And there's just always people there, just visiting. Not everybody comes as a tee time. They just come to see the course. And so when you tee off on the first hole, when you tee off on that same hole that Arnold Palmer and Jack Nicklaus and Ben Hogan and all these greats have teed off on, there's just lots of people there watching. And so I put my my tee in the ground, and I put my ball on it, and I was saying, just make contact. Just make contact. It was the most nervous I've been in forever. And I hit a beautiful shot right down the middle of the fairway, which isn't hard to do because not only is it the oldest course in the world, but it has the biggest fairway in the world. The fairway is 128 yards wide. It's as wide as a football field. And so if you miss it, you've really missed it. So I hit my golf shot, and it did exactly what I wanted it to do. And those around like, oh, that guy knows what he's doing. And I started crying, and I said, I just need a hug. And I went back to my friend Rick, and I said, Rick, I need a hug, and he hugged me. And I cried for the whole first hole. It was a spiritual experience, which is a good thing. It was a wonder. It was such a great day. But the day before, I played Carnoustie. And if you're not a golfer, I'm sorry, but just humor me for a few minutes. Carnoustie is otherwise known as Carnasty. It is known as the most difficult, or one of the most difficult courses in the world. It's also where they play the British Open. And the wind was blowing 40 miles an hour, and I shot the worst score I've shot in probably 7 years. It was just terrible. And I shot that score while I cheated. It was so hard. And when I was done, I said, I don't know if I ever want to play golf again. But I posted something about how brutal it was on Facebook. And one of my friends commented, why do golfers like to suffer? Why do golfers like to suffer? And I thought it was a good question. That's a good question. Why do golfers like to suffer? And I thought, well, I think it's part of our DNA. It's part of who we are, that human beings like difficult things. Human beings like difficult things. We like to set difficult goals and like to achieve them and work towards figuring them out. And I started thinking, all the great inventions, discoveries over the course of the centuries have all started with a difficult idea. It started with somebody coming up with an idea and others saying, that's not going to happen. That's never going to happen. Think about vaccinations, like the polio vaccination. How difficult that was to figure out. Think about taking a rocket to the moon and then coming back. The difficulty of figuring that out. And yesterday, as we flew back from Scotland, you might notice I'm a little loopy. It's because I was all day in a plane yesterday, and I'm kind of I'm in a different time zone right now. But the idea of a plane, getting in this metal tube and flying, halfway across the world. Every time I'm in a plane, I just think, I don't understand how this works, but I'm glad it does. Pete, maybe you could explain sometime. Captain Marquardt. Please say that again louder. Say that again. Okay. Thank you, sir. That's funny. I love this church. So we like difficult things. We like to do difficult things. 10 years ago, I would not have been good enough to play at St. Andrews, but I got better. It was a difficult thing, and I'm so glad that I did. And I think that's kind of the mindset of Naaman. Naaman, the text says he was a great man. He was a great warrior. He did difficult things. He achieved in life. He had a place of honor in his nation. He won victories in the battlefield. He won victories over other armies. But he had leprosy. And so he hears about Elisha. And he says, well, I'm going to go see this Elisha and see if this Elisha can do a difficult thing. See if this Elisha can heal me of leprosy. And so he goes, and he wants Elisha to come out and do the impossible, to just wave his hand and heal him. But Elisha doesn't come out. Instead, he tells him, just go bathe in the river, and you will be healed. And Naaman, a man who likes difficult things, is not satisfied with a simple answer. He's not satisfied with this simple thing. He says, are you kidding me? I came all this way, and you're telling me to bathe in that river? I could have bathed in my rivers at home. They're better rivers. They're cleaner. This has been a waste of time. And his assistant says, well, if he asked you to do something difficult, you would have done that, right? If he asked you to crawl on your knees for 10 miles, you would have done that, right? If he asked you to bark like a dog for 3 days, you would have done that, right? If he asked you to bring him 10 chests full of gold, you would have done that, right? But he asked you to do something simple. So why don't you just try this simple thing and see how it goes? And so he does. He was frustrated because it was so easy, but he went and he did it anyway, and he was healed. I think that's part of the story, too, of Jesus healing 10 lepers. Jesus did for them what Naaman wanted Elisha to do. Jesus just waved his hand, and they were made well. They were healed. It was a simple thing. It was so simple that 9 of them just went on their way. They didn't even come back to say thank you. Maybe if it was more difficult for Jesus, they would have come back. Maybe if he had to go through some type of process, if they saw him sweat, if they saw him toil, if they realized the pain that it was causing Jesus to heal them, they would have come back and said thank you, but they said no. It was just a simple thing. He just waved his hand. There's no point in coming back. I think we all struggle to appreciate the things in life that are easy for us, or the things in life that come easy to us, those things that we take for granted. I was talking to the caddy there at St. Andrews. He said, yeah, I grew up here, and if you're under 16, you can play golf anytime you want for free. I grew up playing this course 3 or 4 times a week, and it was just another course. It was just the local course. I didn't know how special it was. I didn't realize that people were coming from all over the world to play this course because of how special it was. We take for granted the things that come easy. I think this is our problem with the gospel. This is our problem with the good news of Jesus Christ, is that it's just too easy. It's just too easy. It's just too simple. We want it to be more complicated. This message that nothing is required of you. You don't have to do anything. We say, well, give us something. We want to achieve something. Set the bar somewhere. Tell us, give us something small to do and we'll do it. That way we'll know that part of our salvation we've achieved and you've achieved and we're working together. But the problem with that is if you set the bar anywhere, there will be people who have gone above and beyond and who have earned the love of God, and there'll be people who are under the bar, who have not earned the love of God. And we can look at them and say, ha ha, we know God loves us, but not you. This message is so easy, it's frustrating. Because this message is not about what we do. Our salvation is not dependent on what you do. It's dependent upon what you have. That's faith. It's not dependent on what you do. It's dependent on what you have. Faith. And as Lutherans, we say, well, if you have it, guess what? The only reason you have it is because God gave it to you. So don't be proud. You haven't done anything. God has done it all. It's easy to forget that. This faith, these promises that we proclaim every Sunday, these promises that we proclaim every day, did not come to us in an easy way. There was nothing easy about Jesus' death. There was nothing easy when Jesus died for the sins of humankind. There's nothing easy about what God has done for us. So like the leper, we say thank you. We say thank you. I just love this text. This is the text that I could just preach on every day. So the leper comes back and says, thank you. And Jesus looks at the leper and says, your faith has made you well. Your faith has made you well. Jesus hears him say thank you and sees that as an act of faith. It is our gratitude when we say thank you to God for all the many blessings that we have, that God looks down and sees faith in our life. Gratitude equals faith. That is how we show it to God. And he says, your faith has made you well. Your faith has made you well. Your gratitude has made you well. Being healed and being made well are two different things. Being healed and being well are two different things. I have met some very healthy people who aren't well. I'm sure you know them too. People who are lost, people who are living a life completely unfulfilled and without purpose and don't know what they're supposed to do each day. And I'm sure we all know people battling illness who are well, who are as well as we've ever been and maybe better. People who are at peace. I don't know if you recall summer of 2015 when Curtis Piper sat up here and gave a sermon. And he proclaimed that through the midst of the diagnosis of pancreatic cancer, that he was at peace, that he knew that God was with him, and he was looking at taking relationships more seriously and truly entering into a life of community. Somebody who, even after a crushing diagnosis, Curtis was well. So as we live out our thankfulness, may our gratitude to God make us better neighbors and better friends and better brothers and better sisters and better parents and better spouses. And may God make us more kind. May our gratitude make us more generous. May our gratitude make us more forgiving. May our gratitude make us more joyful. Amen.